What's happening? Andy here. I am joined today by the boys of Pros Elite. I'm with Jeff Kelly, Jerry Newberry. How's everyone doing?
Doing good, Andy.
Excellent, Andy. How about you?
I'm great. Great to see you. Jerry, you're down in Florida, if I remember correctly. Where are you?
Out in Tampa.
Oh, I should have remembered. That's one of my favorite places. Super Bowl
Yes.
champions.
Yes.
Super Bowl champions.
That's right.
Actually, this was my
Oh,
seat.
check you out.
This
I
was
know.
my seat.
I know. I knew you were there.
So I just keep that near and dear to my heart, always on my desk. Jeff, where are you today?
I'm in Denver, Colorado.
Oh, how's Denver today?
91 degrees and very hot.
Yeah, that is a little warm. That's that. We were here at that yesterday here in Rochester, upstate Western New York. We're pretty opened up over here. The masks are starting to go away. People are starting to get their shots. So hopefully things over where you guys are starting to clear up a little bit. I saw you guys was it March or April? We did the Pros Elite meeting. You had a service meeting down in Tampa, and I went down there and saw what that was all about. That was pretty amazing. And I thought, let's do some follow-ups, let's do some videos, and maybe to my viewers, the people who couldn't be there, we can kind of give some background, talk about what we did at that meeting. And I thought at first let's just get some background. Jerry, why don't you tell us a little bit, Pros Elite Group, who are you guys? What do you do?
Sure.
Give us the background on that.
Absolutely. Well, we're coming up on 15 years in business, which is kind of hard to believe. Yeah, it's flown by. It's been fun. And, we initially started the company, Andy, as a service consultant group. So we were working on long-term contracts with clients, helping them drive profit, operational performance within their service side of the business. We expanded into some training offerings, which was what you attended, the service management training we launched probably about, 9 years ago now. And then we rolled into launching a sales management training program with Steve Rolla, along with the development of Pivot. We started building Pivot about 5 years ago and formally launched it right about August, September of 2019. So we really have worked our way to becoming a software company, really. Over the last year, Pivot has really hit the market and been widely accepted. We've been onboarding clients regularly. It really took a lot of what we used to have to do on site and automated it through some advanced analytics, which we'll kind of get into it a little later.
So with Pivot, I remember we were at a RICO event. It was kind of one of the last events we had before the whole world went to where it went. And you guys were just rolling it out, just kind of taking the, pulling the tarp off it and showing everybody what it was. And then all of a sudden, we got hit with this virus, and things slowed down, and you kind of pulled back on it. And then you refreshed and relaunched last year, towards the end of last year. So you guys were this training program, you did all this stuff with service, and then you build something called Pivot, and now it's everywhere, right? I see my friends at High Tech are selling it. I see other companies are selling it. Jeff, tell me, like, what is Pivot? What part? It's you have the Pros Elite group, the 100 the Dealer 100 group, and you have a whole bunch of different components. But Pivot seems to be almost an umbrella of a certain portion of your company. So why don't you give us the background? Tell me what is Pivot, and I know there's sales and service side of it. So tell the viewers about that.
Absolutely, Andy. So in our going in and out of various companies, 400 plus over that 15-year period Jerry was talking about, we found a lot of commonality. In a technology industry that we're in, we're still very fragmented. So dealers are getting data from different sources. That some of the data conflicts with one another. So they'll get one measurement out of one source and it's different when they look at it in another. So they're trying to determine, what the heck should I be looking at to really understand the true condition of my business? And in going through those on-site visits and experiencing that over and over again, there was a ton of administrative time that a lot of managers were investing in gathering that data. So what Pivot became the solution to that, where we started looking at, to the industry model, how am I positioning myself operationally from the service, from the sales, and from the overall financial dealer operations perspective. So Pivot does just that. It grabs your data from your ERP system. It right sizes and aligns it to the model. It analyzes it for you and shows you where your opportunities are down to the technician level or down to the sales rep level on the sales side, and analyzes your financial performance to that standard. So it takes everything that managers used to have to gather themselves and really streamlines it into one deliverable that does the heavy lifting for them.
So at the end of the day, it's really just a dashboard that reaches into all the different parts of the dealer's day to day, sales and service. And it helps them kind of visualize and see graphs, charts, real-time data, where their dealership is, where their inventory is, where their people are, where their assets are, everything, all in one place.
Yeah. And in addition to that, if I see areas that are out of line in my organization, the natural thing I'm going to say is, okay, what do I need to do to fix it? So with our consulting expertise, we have the processes built into Pivot to help them address those issues, and thousands of processes and procedures, best practices that we've accumulated over the years that we share with folks using our Pivot platform. So not only does it identify your opportunities, shows you where your focus should be, we have a path to help dealers realize that opportunity once it's identified.
Okay.
And, just to add on something you were
Yeah.
talking about earlier, Andy, you know, with the development of Pivot, one of the things that we kept finding was kind of a disconnect between, the service operational and expense metrics that you need to be looking at and monitoring in a typical office technology company, and the financials of the business. So we kept going into companies that would be looking at all the operational metrics and the expenses, and everything looked perfect. But over on the financial side, they were 8, 10 percentage points off their gross profit benchmark minimum that they should be operating at. And that is a problem with a lot of the different capabilities out here. There's not that direct tie back to the financials. If my margin is off here, I should be able to go right over here and look at the operational and expense side of service very quickly. I know exactly why my margin is out of line. So Pivot ties that operational and financial part of the business together, which is absolutely imperative. I mean, I wouldn't have any product in my company that didn't have a direct financial, connection to it. So that's another thing that Pivot kind of resolves everything under one umbrella. The model ties everything together operationally, financially. So it helps you identify very quickly where your opportunities are. And as Jeff said, work on resolving them.
And Andy, one other quick note that we're excited about, this data is valuable for managers, but it's also valuable to technicians, because managers spend a lot of their time gathering data and sharing it with their techs, whether it's on a weekly or monthly basis. And Pivot has a technician portal that's a component that allows, if managers so choose, to give their technicians access to see how their territory is performing, how their territory looks from a metric standpoint, and where they are to the plan that the manager has set with them. So each technician can really real-time gauge their progress and understand how they're performing and course correct throughout the month. And having those extra set of eyes focused down to the technician level really accelerates the improvement opportunity at the dealer level.
So it's a modular program, right? Because there is, and we'll talk about, with Steve about this later, about the sales side of it. So you literally probably, I would imagine you have some dealers just using this for service, some are probably using it for sales, but it's different people using it in similar fashions, right? So you'll have a service manager, or to your point, maybe a technician logging in. They can look at his territory, her territory, or a management person can look at all their territories, see what's out of whack. How far down can they dig? Like how easy is it to identify the problem? I mean, you've got techs out there running around. We had some conversations in that training that I thought, I'm a sales guy. I never really spent a lot of time. I created more messes for the service department than I probably helped them with. But you had some really interesting things going on where you were talking about people in the room were dealing with techs that might, be throwing extra inventory into a truck or using way more inventory than they were supposed to. Whereas, I think one of the points you made were, yet everybody else is using 2 parts a month and this tech is using 8 parts a month for this one problem. Why is that? And so tell me, how does the software help identify some of these problems, or maybe a tech that's, maybe abusing their privileges, or even other people in the organization, like, product going out the back door. What other things can this do to help create just some accountability for all that stuff?
Jerry, do you want to handle that, or you want me to talk about it?
Go ahead.
Well, one of the things that we do is, in going in and out of so many companies over the years, there are a common set of key areas that drive operational and financial results on the service side of the business. So knowing those, we surgically analyze the data. And to us, that's important. It's some analytics platforms will just regurgitate data to you. And so it just creates more information that managers have to sort through. And managers are so occupied with day-to-day operations that they really need intelligent data that's actionable, that's delivered to them. So the common areas that we see through the experience of going in and out and assessing companies are analyzed within Pivot and delivered to the manager, ready to take action on. An example, to your point, technicians, when territories are built, generally, in a lot of companies, have no idea what they should be spending on average in parts replacement if their territory is running effectively. Pivot determines, is their territory running effectively to the benchmarking standards? And if not, how is their parts relative to what they should be spending? Since we know the financial goals of the organization, Pivot disseminates that all the way down to each manager's team and each technician's territory. So as a technician, I know what my contribution is to the company goal within my territory, and Pivot's measuring that and showing me how effective I am at that area. If I have parts that I put in prematurely, Pivot's analyzing those to identify which ones they were, and even show me how much money I'm losing by not getting the appropriate yield at the part level. So there's a lot of really good efficiency, operational efficiency measurements, and financial opportunity measurements that we're really honed in on with our platform.
Just to add on to that, Andy,
Yeah.
one of the big challenges in our industry, and it's baffling that the industry's been around so long and is still an issue in the industry, is getting control of obsolescence in a company. Every year, a company is writing off hundreds, tens of thousands of dollars in parts that go obsolete. Well, this is so simple to track now utilizing Pivot, because we can tell based on some predictive analytics exactly what the car stocks need to look like at the tech level. If we've got that data, we then go in and adjust the actual in-house inventory max and minimums to make sure that these companies are not over ordering parts and getting that obsolete write-off every year. Today, there's no automated way inside of eAutomate, or any software for that matter. You have to kind of manually put a lot of work in to track diminishing usage on maybe some old machines that are getting replaced in the field. And unfortunately, that doesn't happen on a regular basis. So Pivot can actually be a really effective tool to help you drive down that reordering process on parts that we're seeing a regular diminishing usage of, so that at the end of the year, you run what hasn't moved in 12 months or 18 months. That number is going to be a whole lot smaller than what it was if you're not using Pivot. And that's something that we're seeing in the 100+ companies we currently have using the tool. The other thing, just to add on what Jeff talked about, this whole spending plan, in my 35 years in service, I've never seen anything have such a financial impact and ROI on the business as quick as that. Because we've never, even overseeing all of Global Imaging Systems locations in service, we didn't or weren't able to push to the tech level what their territory spend should look like. There was just no advanced automated way to do it, or we chose not to build anything at that point. But Pivot is able to do that, and the impact has been that parts expense to revenue almost across the board, and the majority of our clients now has been well below benchmark, which has put a big ROI in bottom line gross profit dollars on these companies.
Amazing. We have to think that I would have to think that the dealers are loving just the ability to squeeze a little bit of extra margin into the service department, right? Just by keeping the out of box issues, especially with the products that are going away. Like you said, just that inventory issue. One of the things I remember being really impressed with when we talked about it, and it was actually when you Jerry, you told me about it. It was for the sales side. I'm going to guess it is for the service, but we'll let you tell us about it. Territory distribution, where you're just setting up territories, and one of the things that dealers are working through and have always been working through. You've got all these territories. They're often by zip code or however you set them up, and they don't tend to change, right? But people move around, communities change, buildings are built, and over time that does need to be right sized. And sometimes maybe all of a sudden a rep winds up in a territory that's grown in population or shrank in population, right? So I know you told me, and I'm going to ask Steve about this for the sales side of this. You guys, Pivot has the ability to help these guys. Does it right size their territories in sales? Does it do it in service? And if it does, how does that work?
Absolutely, it does. So we've built some advanced analytics, number one, to define what a workload is for a technician. That's really important. There's no advanced analytics like this currently in the industry that will accurately tell you as you're adding machines to a technician and volume, and taking into account how big the geographical size of that territory is, and tell you, okay, stop here, because that is now a workload for that technician. So the analytics, building the territories, is very simple to do, and the analytics helps you define that territory. But even more importantly than that, the downfall of most companies, and we even experienced it back in my global days, we could go in and spend, weeks and weeks and weeks manually creating territories for the techs. And as you said, almost daily, you've got machines being added, machines being removed, upgraded, right? So your volume is changing, your placements, your models, which affects inventory, all that's constantly moving. And because it was a manual process to actually readjust territories, guess what happened? It didn't get done.
Yeah.
But then your incomplete rates, because your car stocks now don't work because your, inventory's changed. Pivot is simple to very quickly update and adjust in a matter of seconds, literally, what that new territory looks like with all the changes that occurred. Adding the volume, losing the volume, model mix changes. Immediately click of a button, we can create a new car stock and tell you what you need to pull, what you need to add to make sure that guy has 92% effective rate to be able to complete that call 92% of the time. That's a first.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. So when somebody signs on, new customer, you've got dozens of them. I remember you mentioning at the already, and you haven't even had it out that long.
Yeah.
I mean, that meeting, you had like 30 people at that meeting, and it was like still during COVID, right? I mean, people were real tentative about it. How long, once they sign up, what's the process? How long does it take to get up to speed? I would imagine they've got to find all their data, and you help get all that entered. How does that go? How does that work for them?
You want to walk through that data governance and everything piece?
Yeah, absolutely. So the process, once we engage with a client, Andy, is the onboarding process is very simple. Pivot install typically is done in 15 to 20 minutes on average, and we can generally schedule those in about a 5-day business day window after the client is ready to move forward with the install. So as we get the client onboarded, we handle that within the first week. Our training group, everyone that trains has done the job that they're training on. And to us, that's critically important. So we handhold each client through a systematic training process that is designed to take them through each module in Pivot in the order in which they would engage in using it. So we really take a lot of pride in hand-holding the clients through the process of executing Pivot within their organization, because we want them to get the most out of it and to get the biggest ROI from the tool as quickly as possible.
Amazing. You guys have been talking about it, and I saw how excited you were at Rico, but I'm starting to get why you had such a buzz going. It was, at that RICO meeting, what was it, in 19, when I originally saw this. So, you took a great concept and a great program that you had already been running, and now you've just automated everything. The software component of this and the dashboards just makes it so much more usable than it already was. So
Absolutely.
really, really cool. I look forward to chatting with Steve to find out in a few weeks. We're going to do like I mentioned, the follow up on the sales side, which is my beginning. So I'm really excited to hear how it works out in the field. This was great, though. I really appreciate you guys taking the time to tell me all about this. I know dealers are using this, from what you guys told me. Big dealers, small dealers, it's for everybody, right? I mean, you literally have some of, if not the biggest dealer in the country using it, down to just your average multi-million-dollar, what we call maybe a smaller size dealer. So, but this is for everybody. Yes,
from 2 million to 450 million today. So, and we could put $1 billion company underneath this umbrella.
Well, you might be doing that. You might be doing that sooner or later, right? So, really exciting technology. I don't know of anything else that does what you guys are doing with Pivot. You certainly picked the right buzzword, because this Pivot is the word of the year, just because everybody's had to do that, with the virus and all that. But really cool stuff. Great seeing you guys a couple months ago. I look forward to chatting with Steve down the road. Any last comments, Jeff? I'll give you the first one, and then Jerry, your turn next.
No, just want to thank you for the opportunity to get this out and talk about what Pivot can do for companies. I think you mentioned one point that in my mind is very critical today. The companies that were positioned pre-COVID to weather the storm, they had those operational efficiencies, they had that financial performance. The ones that we worked with in that position weathered this situation a lot better than those that weren't. So we just don't know what the future holds. It's unpredictable. So being prepared for every possible contingency is not a bad thing. I think that's been proven over the past year. And I think Pivot provides that for dealers.
I would have to agree. Jerry, anything from you?
Well, the last thing would be, obviously, demonstrations are free and on demand. Anybody that's interested in the product, they can go directly to our website. They can call any of us directly. We'll be glad to show them the capability. But we're very exciting. We're constantly in development. We've got some really new capabilities we'll be launching out here in the next few weeks. It's all around the Power BI and some really neat tools that'll be industry first capabilities. So it's a never ending. When you get into software, Andy, you never get there. Yeah. You're constantly developing new capabilities. So it's fun.
Well, I'm going to sit back and watch you do it. It's been a blast so far working with you guys. It's a pleasure covering you. I look forward to your next meeting that I get to go to. I know they're always in great places. So, just good seeing you recently, and keep it up. It was very nice talking to you. It was very informative. And each time I do these calls with you, I learn a little bit more about Pivot and just how much more it can do. But, it's so hard for a dealer to find any way to make more money when all their margins are being challenged in service and supplies and hardware, especially hardware. And to be able to just wring a little bit more water out of that mop, without having to do anything, I would just imagine something like this just pays for itself over time. It's just a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer.
And in a lot of cases, it's not a little water; it's a lot of water.
Yeah. It's one of those things. There's not a lot of opportunities in this industry where you can go work with somebody where a little bit of work on your end can get you a huge financial result and really increase your profitability. And at the end of the day, that's what we're all about. So, boys, thank you very much for chatting with me. We will talk soon. And have a great afternoon. Thanks.
All right, Andy. Thank you, buddy. Take care.
Take care.